Don't run out of money before I'm generating revenue was the whole idea behind that 20 grand.
One night in 2002, GrubHub founder Mike Evans was hungry and tired, and he just wanted to get food delivered. And he had an idea, and the very popular food delivery system was born.
I've always been a core believer that there isn't just one set path, and a big problem in the United States is we only have a linear path for traditional success. Did you always want to go to university? I know you racked up quite a lot of university debt.
I didn't want to just go to college because I wanted a college degree. I wanted to go to college because I wanted to maximize the options that I had to do my career later. And even at GrubHub, I talk about this in Hangry in the book. You know, after the IPO, a lot of people thought I was successful because I had an IPO, but I thought the business was successful for a different reason. I had my own definition of success. And what that was, it's so basic, it doesn't even sound like an innovation.
One of my favorite quotes of all time, you used it in your book: if more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would all be a merrier world.
How do we put together a program that really helps homeowners just not worry about being an A-plus homeowner? And so we reframed that question of I want monthly revenue to in terms of what do customers need that's regular. It took us literally like a year and a half of testing and figuring these things out until we really cracked the code on what people wanted.
I've got a very special guest lined up for today, and you are not going to believe this individual has gone on to build a $2 billion company from scratch. We've got Mike Evans, the founder of GrubHub. He's gone on to build some other very impressive stuff, as publishing a best-selling book, Hangry, that's flying off the shelves, and has also gone on to found a very successful company called Fixer. We're going to dig into this episode to find out everything he's learned along the way of going to MIT at the beginning, coming up with the idea for GrubHub, why he quit his job after becoming a millionaire and staying in poor conditions, biking across the United States, living in a tent instead of living the high life. He shares everything he's learned along the way, and you're not going to want to miss the very end because there's some really insightful information about making a business successful and also the mindset that goes along with it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dig in.
Thanks for having me on board. You know, I've got obviously I just put this book out, Hangry, and I had a moment to sort of sit back and reflect on what the 12 years I spent at GrubHub founding at my apartment and running it through the IPO was like. And now I'm 5 years into this new business called Fixer, which is a handy person, a homeowner care and maintenance company where we employ the handy people as full-time employees instead of like a contractor model. And a lot of what I'm spending my attention on is sort of thinking about really what customers want, like what customers want in the home, how they want their home managed, and sort of trying to take the lessons I learned from the first 10 years at GrubHub and then applying them to another business that it's also is going to be hopefully quite large.
So what are some of the things that I guess maybe the pitfalls or failures you had at GrubHub that you're trying to avoid now in Fixer?
Yeah, I think the thing that I talk about in the book and that I learned the first time, and then I'm shocked I've had to learn again because I literally wrote a book on it, is the only thing that matters in a consumer business is a repeat purchase. The only thing that matters is having a product that's so good that people come back to it again and again and again, because it is so expensive to get customers. It just takes so much effort and money and energy and everything just to attract people to whatever it is you're selling, your brand, your book, your company, whatever it is. Once you get them to try your product, it's so important that it's so good and that you invite them to come back and repeat use it. I forgot it. I got really distracted by the idea of getting new customers, and I forgot that repeat customers was where it was at. And so it took me a couple of years to relearn that lesson here again at Fixer.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a similar journey where they realize it's so hard to get your first customers. Maybe they get first 100 or first thousands. And a lot of times they don't realize, hey, maybe we should just reach out to that buyer pool or set up some sort of recurring business model. And this is why every tech company and almost every piece of software we buy now is on a monthly recurring revenue business model. How are you guys trying to fix that problem at Fixer with getting recurring revenue, not having to go out, and once you have a customer, keeping them in the funnel and in the family?
Yeah, I think the first thing you do is you say, okay, from a business perspective, obviously it makes more sense if people come back every month or every week or every whatever to your business instead of just one and done. But you have to take that and sort of put it on the side and say, okay, well, what is it that customers actually need that that happens monthly. And it turns out, we started out with a handy person business where you had a broken pipe in your wall, you needed somebody to come fix it. You had to put in a new door, you had to make something level, you had to hang some art, whatever. And so you'd book our service online, we'd show up, we'd do a great job. But what we realized is that there was a deeper issue that homeowners were facing, which was, I don't know how to maintain my home more generally, and I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have to be on top of like, did I change the air filters this year, or was that last year? Things like that. And so what we did is we realized there was 60 or 70 core tasks that have to happen every year. Some of them happen every month even. Some of them happen every quarter. And how do we put together a program that really helps homeowners just not worry about being an A-plus homeowner? And so we reframed that question of I want monthly revenue to in terms of what do customers need that's regular. And it took us literally like a year and a half of testing and figuring things out until we really cracked the code on what people wanted to have us come do every month. In addition to sort of the ad hoc, hey, can you install this thing for me? That also happened in addition. And so we rebuilt the company around this idea of a holistic home care maintenance program with an employee base instead of a contractor base. So the quality of the work is really good. And so that's the way the entrepreneur journey goes. You realize you need something as an entrepreneur, and then you have to reframe it in terms of what the customers need. You can't just like go out there and say like, this is what I need, right? That doesn't help. That doesn't get customers to buy your stuff.
Right. And what are some of these things that people are needing on a regular basis? I'm curious.
Yeah. So like it starts with just this idea. It's so basic. It doesn't even sound like an innovation. Scheduling. The idea that you don't have to schedule a fixer to one of our handy people to show up, but that we just show up like the third Tuesday of every month, ready to work. Like just that reduces the amount of mental attention you have to put on the home. And then the actual stuff we do in the home is everything from light bulbs to air filters, safety checks. That can be checking the fire extinguishers every year, making sure you have fire extinguishers, things like that, making sure you have a fire blanket. Like it's actually a really important thing to have in your kitchen, but like most people don't have it. And so we order those things for the customer, put them in an out of the way place, label them, things like that. And so it's those kind of tasks that make the home more comfortable, more safe, but without like stressing out the homeowner. Like that, they don't have to do a lot of work.
Yeah, making it easy and seamless. I love that. And I can see that it's going to be a huge market for this. There probably already is a lot of people utilizing the application. As far as like, where do you see the next few steps for Fixer? What is it? Rolling out to new markets in the US, expanding internationally? What's the kind of the next few years looking like?
Yeah, I talk about sort of the why of business in the book quite a bit. And I talk about, sort of as you get towards the end, I'm sort of thinking about this company I created that was really instrumental in launching the gig economy, which is good for some people, but also not great for some people. And it's sort of a mixed bag as we're sort of, as a society, starting to understand what that means. And I wanted to create a new company that was actually going to make a social impact while it was also doing business. And so the whole idea behind Fixer is that we train people from scratch to be handy people to take care of our customers' homes. And so there just aren't a lot of trade schools anymore in the United States. And so the idea that we train people is for a lot of people the only path that they have to get into the trades. And so our audacious goal, our big, hairy, audacious goal is to reboot trade education in the United States and do it in a way that brings a lot of value to customers. And so that's what we're trying to do at Fixer. We're in 6 cities right now: Chicago, Dallas, Denver, Phoenix, Seattle, and LA. And so we plan on being in, 100 cities in 5 years. So we're in that expansion mode that startups get to once they figure out the product just right. And so that's where we're at right now.
Wow, I love that mission. I've always been a core believer that there isn't just one set path, and a big problem in the United States is we only have a linear path for traditional success. There needs to be more options presented to people, and a lot of times that option should be in the trades, which you go to countries like Australia, New Zealand, tradespeople are very well renowned there. They make a really great living, and they have a lot of respect in the communities. So I think there's got to be a shift here because people need alternative paths in life, and they need more options presented to them. So I love that mission there.
Yeah, I think even that idea that like there's not a linear path to success. There's not even one definition of success. There's multiple definitions of success. The idea of like a 50-hour a week job, like in one place, working for one company, is not necessarily what everybody wants, right? And so the idea that you create a path for alternate, like that's not just go to college, amass a lot of debt, get a corporate job, but different paths also open up different definitions of success. And so I think this idea of like being intentional about defining success for yourself feeds in very, very closely to what it is we're trying to do at Fixer, but just more generally with entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's something that I rethink every year is what is my definition of success? Write it out, think about it, put it in place where I see it every day. And a lot of people I talk with, I say, hey, how are you going to define success for your life? Because it's different than what your parents have in their definition of success. It's different than their grandparents. And if you pull 100 people, they're going to have different versions. So I think every person listening to this needs to figure out what is your version of success and start working on it. So I guess flashing back and looking at the path that you went down, Mike, I know you went to college. Can you talk us a little bit about that? Like, did you always want to go to university? I know you racked up quite a lot of university debt.
Yeah, I grew up in what at the time was rural Georgia, but became suburban Atlanta. And I really wanted to experience, I wanted to go to college because I wanted to experience multiculturalism and in an international set of peers. That was really what I wanted to get out of college. And so I ended up going to MIT, and pretty quickly, doing software at MIT, I knew I wanted to do some sort of .com. This was 99, right? Like right at the .com crash is when I graduated. And so I came out of school at a time when like everybody was like, oh, that didn't work. The .com thing didn't work. And I was like, I don't know. I think I'm going to give it a try. I think I'm going to give this GrubHub thing a try. And I'm glad I did, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I think the idea of like, I didn't want to just go to college because I wanted a college degree. I wanted to go to college because I wanted to maximize the options that I had to do in my career later. And even at GrubHub, I talk about this in Hangry in the book about like, after the IPO, a lot of people thought I was successful because I had an IPO, but I thought the business was successful for a different reason. I had my own definition of success. And what that was, I wanted to help independent restaurants thrive. And so we, over the course of 12 years, we really did that. There was 80,000 independent restaurants on the platform at the time that we had the IPO. And that's why I think it was success. I helped restaurants stay in business. A lot of them were run by first generation or second generation immigrants to the United States. It's one of the easiest paths towards most accessible paths to entrepreneurship that people can have when they enter the United States. And so sort of feeding into that ecosystem and helping that ecosystem was why and being good at it was why I defined success, not because of the IPO. And so this idea that like everyone will give you a definition of success, not just your parents and grandparents, but like government, church, friends, partner, kids, like everyone will give you a definition of success, which is why it's so important to define it for yourself.
So switching back to there, like from MIT to graduating, what was that path like? I kind of want to go through chronologically and I think that'll be super beneficial.
I left MIT and I went and interviewed for corporate jobs, and my wife was decided to go to Northwestern Law, which is in Chicago. And so I interviewed for jobs around Chicago, and I ended up with two very different jobs. One was at a .com. That was one offer I got. And the other one was as an electronics engineer at a steel mill. And I really, really, really wanted to do the steel mill job. I was way more interested in like moving thousands of pounds of molten metal around, like efficient. Like it just seemed like a cool job, right? And I didn't know if I was going to do it for the rest of my life, but I just thought it would be a cool experience to do it. I had done internships at Ford and places where there were strong union shops, and I had always gotten along with the unions really well. And I liked the idea of like that interface. The engineer sort of sometimes plays the interface between managers and unions, but they just paid so little money compared to the .com jobs. I just couldn't convince myself to do it. And it's a trap. Like this idea that you get like a really good degree and you have a lot of debt, like it limits your options. You kind of have to take the higher paying job. And then if you I had friends who were in this situation that liked that job, but then because they were being paid really well, didn't like that job, but because they were being paid really well, felt like they couldn't go do what they really wanted to do. And so it's actually really important to think about these things about like what you want to do early before your earning power starts amassing in a particular trade or domain of skill, because once that happens, it gets harder and harder to switch. And so I ended up getting the .com job, and as predicted, I didn't love it. I was like sitting in a cubicle. I was writing software. I was just a coder, and I just did air quotes for anyone listening to this on audio because like you're not really allowed to look at marketing or business or sales if you're just a coder. And that I chafed. I just didn't like being limited and pigeonholed like that. And so what I did is I took that time to learn how, in what in my mind I thought of as a big corporation. It was only 300 people. It wasn't actually that big of a company, but in my mind it was this huge behemoth of the company. And I just wanted to like understand what they did well. They did a really good job of taking care of their employees from a benefits and like care perspective, but like the work was really boring. So like it was just wasn't that innovative or anything. And so I ended up wanting to start my own company. But I thought it was helpful to be in the corporate world for a couple of years with a learning mentality to see what was done well, instead of just starting out with this mentality that everything's wrong and I can do it all better. There are some things that corporations do really good. And so it was helpful to see that firsthand.
Do you think having a job that you don't love kind of motivates you to start working on something else, to start searching for other options? Or do you think, you could have created GrubHub without that?
Hell yes. I thought it was important. Like there was a pull like towards doing something I wanted to do. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start a company. I wanted to sort of learn new things. So there was a pull, but that alone, like I still would be playing Xbox. Like I got pretty good at Halo. It just wasn't motivating enough to have this pull to go do something else. The fact that the day job kind of sucked, and I saw like 30 years of having a day job that sucked in my future, like that was a push. That was like a get off your ass, go do work kind of a moment. And so I think it was helpful to see that that wasn't the lifestyle I wanted, because it just added that extra motivation. There were times when it was 6 o'clock or 5:30 and I could probably fit in one more like visit to a restaurant and try and do a sale. And if it wasn't for the fact that I had to go back to the corporate job, tail tucked between my legs, that I didn't want to do, like that motivated me to do that last sale a lot of days. And those things made a difference when you stack them up over the course of a decade.
Yeah, I definitely think people need to have some of that experience going through that grind, because it makes the other path seem a lot more enjoyable. Entrepreneurship is definitely, in my opinion, a more enjoyable path, but it comes with a lot of challenges. So I'm curious, like as far as those challenges you had in the early days, I know you guys pulled together, you and your co-founder, around $22,000, right? What were some of those initial challenges getting GrubHub off the floor?
I didn't know how to sell. It was a pretty big challenge. I didn't have the first clue how to sell a restaurant on the concept that I had built. And at the time, it was just a delivery guide. There wasn't even transactions involved. It was just a monthly subscription, which is funny because I went away from the subscription towards a transactional model, which is the exact opposite that every company is doing today. But it took a lot of reps. Like I read a lot, I talked to people, so I got like the theory, but it took a lot of reps. I had to just sell a bunch before I got pretty good at sales. But it took some time and some reps and some effort, and so that was a big challenge. But you just had to put the work in. Like it didn't come easy. You know, a lot of times there's this sort of startup-itis that like you think about how to make things scalable, but you can't make them scalable till you do the hard work of doing it in a poor, unscalable way first and learning where the pain is, right? You can't make things scalable by theory. You have to like get in there and get your hands dirty. And so I learned that lesson the first time at GrubHub. And then I learned it like another 20 times over and over and over again while I was there. And then I learned it again at Fixer several times. Like even yesterday, like we're in the process of doing door hangers on people's homes and just trying to figure out how to make that a scalable thing, hiring folks off Craigslist. And I just like skipped a few steps. Like it's a pain in the neck to get the door hangers to the people doing the work. And until I actually went and did it myself, I didn't realize how hard that was. So it's just this thing I learn again and again. Like you do ugly, dirty things early in a business, figure out what works, and then you figure out how to make them smooth and efficient and scalable later. And it's so easy to start reversed. But those were that was a lot of the challenges early on at the company.
So of that 22,000, what was that allocation towards? Did you guys hire a salesperson? What did you put that initial funding towards?
I decided to pay myself $36,000 a year. So $3,000 a month. So with 22 grand in the bank, I had 7 months before we ran out of money. It was just so I could barely afford rent and ramen noodles. And it gave me 7 months, and I had to just sell like crazy before the money ran out. And I did. We didn't run out of money. I slowly built up the revenue. It wasn't until 2 years later or 18 months later that I started hiring other people. I was just doing the sales myself early on, and the coding and everything, right? Everything that's typical of the entrepreneur's journey. It's actually atypical to go get a bunch of money from a venture capitalist or friends and family money. I don't know who these friends and family are that provide friends and family. I didn't have any. So it's more typical to sort of hustle and bootstrap. Most entrepreneurs do that. And so the idea that like you go to Stanford, write a business plan, convince a VC to give you a bunch of money, and then 3 years later you go through an IPO. Basically, nobody does that. You're more likely to go to Vegas and win money on the roulette wheel than you are to go that sort of mythical path of the startup. And so that allocation was just like survive. Like there was no budget. There was just like, don't run out of money before I'm generating revenue was the whole idea behind that 20 grand.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have the misconception. You need to like validate your business idea. You guys did that by getting, one of the first restaurants on board. Somebody actually bought your product, paid you money, and that doesn't necessarily need to take years. I think a lot of people waste a lot of time and a lot of money investing in stuff that isn't necessarily validated by the market. So I'm curious, like, how long did it take you guys to start? You took a few years to start getting profitable, or how long did it take till the business was actually making profit?
Have you ever dreamed of soaking up knowledge from top business leaders and entrepreneurs? Well, I've got a perfect solution for you, and it's going to be a wealth of knowledge that can travel with you anywhere in the world. Introducing today's sponsor, and one of my favorite products for education is Audible.com, your personal doorway to thousands of audiobooks packed full of wisdom and adventure. Are you a knowledge seeker, always on the move? Carrying hundreds of books everywhere isn't practical at all, right? Or it can be hard to read while walking through an airport, at the gym, or anywhere else on the go. This is where Audible came to the rescue. The power to carry hundreds of books in your back pocket. With Audible, you're not just reading, you're living stories, learning new skills, and downloading decades of knowledge right from your pocket. Imagine carrying thousands of books that you can access at any time from the comfort of your phone. And here's the best part. You can get started today for absolutely free. Even better, you can listen to my #1 best-selling audiobook, Global Career, How to Work Anywhere and Travel Forever, at no cost at all by simply clicking the links below in the description. Audible has built a new medium that has redefined and enhanced the nature of spoken information, education, and entertainment. And if you're ready to get started, just click that link below and you can get started with your free trial of Audible.
It was pretty much profitable right away. We had the 20 grand, right, that I could burn through. But after about 6 weeks, I was generating more revenue than was going out the door. And then the business was profitable pretty much forever. So we with some small exceptions. So we raised a little bit of finance. So it was profitable before the first financing. Raised $1 million, got into 4 cities, and then another $2 million and got into 13 cities. And then we were profitable again. And then we raised money to expand nationally. And then after 6 months after we raised that money, we were profitable. And then we were profitable before the IPO for 8 months, and then 8 quarters, and then after the IPO for 8 quarters. And so there was a mentality at the business of not just spending for growth that made the business really sustainable. After I left, a couple years after the IPO, the company took a different path. And it really made it challenging for the business to sort of be nimble, because you fall into this trap of spending so much money for customers so that you can grow, so that you can get investors, so you can spend so much money for customers. And it's sort of a never-ending cycle. And then in addition to that, there was more competition entering the space. And so it was a difficult cycle to end up in. But we had a focus on profitability very early on, which, by the way, I just call a real business. Like the idea of like, you just take a ton of money and then you're never profitable, like WeWork, for example, or a million other examples. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I don't get how people think that way. That's not a real business. That's a Ponzi scheme. When you're not, like, when you have no plan to ever be profitable.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. My background's in bootstrapping. I've seen a little bit of insights. I am angel investing in a few applications, but I'm curious, what made you decide to go that path of raising funds instead of just continuing on bootstrapping it?
So we were having a lot of success. It was profitable. I was probably making about 700,000 a year in revenue, and making a profit, spending less than that, inclusive of paying myself a salary. So we had gotten to a pretty good place. And so this question came up about like, why even take financing? And I talk about this in the book that like, yes, it will help us expand faster, but to what end? Like, I want to pay off my student debt, and I might be on that path already. Like, I don't necessarily need to put that at risk. But the thing that really convinced me was I had a mentor, Chuck Templeton, who had founded Open Table, and so that was a big get to get him as a mentor. And what he said was, yes, like you'll take the money and it'll help you grow faster. But the real reason to take money from venture capitalists is you get a board of directors and you have people around the table who have your interests and their interests are aligned, and they point out your blind spots and they force you to grow. They force you to learn and learn faster. They're not yes men or yes women. They force you to confront your biases and your prejudices and your blind spots. And it forces you to learn if you're willing to take the feedback. And that sounded super interesting to me. Like the idea of being stagnant and just running a sort of a lifestyle business for 20 years and making a profit, like that'd have been fine. I'd have had a comfortable life. I could have gone back to playing Xbox. Like it would have been okay. Maybe that would have been a good decision. Maybe I'd be happier, but I don't know that I'd be as fulfilled. And so the idea of challenging myself really appealed to me, and venture capitalists definitely challenge you. And so I actually encourage people to get VC and get boards because they help you, which is sort of flipping the narrative a little bit, because a lot of people want to take the money but not get the board of directors. They want to just keep running the company the way they want to run it. But actually, I think good investors, that's a big caveat, really help you grow. Bad investors are just a pain in the ass, but like good investors, they help, they challenge you, you grow as a human being.
Yeah, I do think, I know you mentioned this, I think in the book, about being content. As entrepreneurs, we always are pushing the finish line, the goals. What are some of the things that you've seen about how you can turn that into kind of a positive thing where you can still be happy in your life, but essentially always wanting to continue growing as an individual and with your businesses?
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of deeply philosophical, but I think there's a difference between happiness and fulfillment. And the first one is elusive. I think you can sort of get everything that you think you want and not be happy, right? But actually you can pursue fulfillment and contentment in a much more thoughtful and deliberate way. At least that's been true in my life. And so for me, I just know that I need a challenge. I need a challenge in my life. If I were to just play golf, well, golf would become the challenge and I'd be obsessed about it. But like, I think that's part of it, is that for a certain mindset that pushes and needs challenge and needs something to figure out and to tinker with and to learn, putting those efforts towards things that make the world a better place. I think that can be really fulfilling and satisfying. And there's happiness also along the way, but that's not really sort of the main goal in my life. And it took me a while to realize that. It took me a little while to realize that just like entertainment and just doing what you want actually can lead to a pretty dull life, actually. So I think thinking about success, thinking about intentionality, and thinking about how to apply one's energy and efforts in a thoughtful and deliberate way, I think that's the answer.
So in about one sentence, could you summarize what the legacy and goal that you have now moving forward?
Yeah, I want to reboot trade education in the United States. I want to make it accessible in a gender inclusive way. The trades, it's hard to get into them unless you know somebody. And since it's mostly guys in the trades, it's hard for women to even enter the trades. It's hard for anyone to enter the trades. It's almost impossible for women to enter the trades in the United States with the systems that are currently set up. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is create an accessible path into the trades as an alternative to college, because they can be really good jobs, as you mentioned earlier. So that's what I'm trying to do.
That's amazing. Amazing goal. I love that. And I hope people can support it. I know it'll be a great mission, and you're doing a lot of things to fulfill that. You mentioned earlier about having a mentor. How can people find mentors and coaches? How did you go about doing that?
Man, it's so hard because I don't have a good answer to this. I can share some of the challenges I've seen from the other side. So a lot of people have asked me to be their mentor since GrubHub had the IPO. And the challenge is, I don't know who's serious and who's not. it's really hard for me to know who's really going to have the staying power to like be worth the effort of investing in them. And it's not that I want to invest dollars, but investing my time in somebody really sucks when you put time into somebody and then it doesn't pan out. And so for me, the challenge is I've got my own things I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to raise a kid. Like I don't have a ton of time. So if I'm going to put energy and effort towards somebody, they really need to have tenacity, follow through, thoughtfulness, mission orientation, values alignment, all of those things. And so I think the inverse must be true, that when you're seeking a mentor, you have to bring those things. Because what the mentee gets out of the relationship is fairly obvious. Like they get education, they get growth, they get opportunity. What the mentor gets out of it is they take some of their time and they leave a legacy. And so there's nothing worse than you can do to a mentor's time than waste it, right? Because like if you take all that energy and you do nothing with it, like what's the point? Like I could have just been, like I said earlier, been playing Xbox. So I think that that's the key, is just understanding what the trade-off is between a mentor-mentee relationship and like leaning into it.
Yeah, I definitely think if you're an ambitious person and you have ambitious goals and you're actually doing things to work towards that, a lot of mentors will see that and gravitate towards you. And that's kind of been my experience, where I've just been in a lot of situations where it wasn't such a formal mentorship, but I've had a lot of people that saw my ambition and kind of gravitated to try to help me out as sort of a mentor role. And I think that's something a lot of people need to do. It's they want to get a mentor before they've done anything, put in the grind, put in the work, and be transparent about it. And a lot of mentors, I think, will kind of see that drive. And as you mentioned, the tenacity, which a lot of people are looking for. In the beginning of your book, Hangry, you included a quote by J.R.R. Tolkien: "If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world." Why did you end up including this as one of the first things people read when they're starting your book?
So the book Hangry, it's not about creating a company that IPOs. It's about the emotional journey of creating a startup. What is it like as a person to go through that? And one of the things that becomes really apparent as you become successful is that there are different parties involved that have different interests, and a lot of those, a big portion of them are people just want to get rich. They just want to they want to give you a certain amount of money. They want to take more money out, right? And it's a known fact, like it's a known quantity. That's why investors invest, and it's fine. And so the quote, if people valued food and cheer above hoarded gold, that was actually the counterpoint to the first quote. There were two quotes in the book. In the start of the book, the first one was, "Make no small plans, for they have no power to move men's hearts," which is by Daniel Burnham, who's a major architect of the city of Chicago. So taken together, those two quotes, the idea is that shoot for something big, but like enjoy it while you're going through it, right? It's not all just about the money. And this idea I'm glad that you picked up on it, because most people talk about the first quote. The two in combination, I'm trying to address this issue that's rampant in startups, which is an entrepreneur gets into doing a startup because they're willing to be miserable for a number of years, 5-10 years, creating their startup, so that then after that, they can be happy. And it doesn't work. If you can't find contentment now, then you can't find it later. You have to work on that the only time to ever get good at finding contentment is in the present. And so the idea behind those two quotes is that, like, go and do something ambitious, but enjoy it while you're doing it, not after it's done. And so it's a bit subtle. I don't know that a lot of people picked up on that in the book, but that's sort of one of the messages of the book is do hard things, but enjoy the fact that while you're doing the hard things can be fun.
100%. I love the expression, the person who loves walking is going to walk further than anybody. And I think finding what that is, what that passion is for you, and aligning it with something in your business, that's something that you actually enjoy, is going to make you a lot more successful than somebody who just hates things for 4 or 5 years, isn't happy, to try to, at some point later down the line, get more money to make them happier. I don't think that works out well for most people. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. I love that quote. As far as the main mission of the book, you kind of kicked it off with that. Anything else that you want people to really take away from hangry after reading it?
Yeah, the goal of the book was if I could convince 10 people about this idea that businesses are huge levers for social change, whether you want them to be or not. Just doing business activity changes the communities in which it works. So be intentional about it. Be thoughtful about it. Think about where you're headed and how what you do impacts the community around you. Because if you don't think about that early, it can be very hard to change it late. And so I that is the main message of the book, is just be thoughtful and intentional about what you do, and think about your impacts holistically, not just in terms of the business world. That's the main point of the book.
Love it. It's a great read. I highly recommend people checking out Hangry. You can find it on Amazon, Audible, anywhere that you can buy books out there. It's a fantastic read. Highly recommend it. Anything else that you want to add about the book, or if anybody wants to find out or reach out to you, where can they find you?
You can find me at mikeevans.com. The only other thing I'd say about the book is I think it's pretty damn funny, but I'm biased.
I agree. Yeah, it actually made me hungry. You mentioned Lucky Charms and pizza. So what is your hangry food? Is it still Lucky Charms
Chicken
and
wings.
pizza?
Oh man,
Chicken
buffalo
wings?
chicken wings with blue cheese. I might go have some for lunch because I'm like craving that right now.
Okay, so you live in Chicago, home of the deep dish. What is the top pizza? I know you mentioned in the book, but there's Illuminati's. What is your favorite deep dish?
There's a small restaurant near me, about a mile from me, called JD Alberto's, and their pizza, which is like a thinner crust, it's not the deep dish, with giardiniera. I can never say that word right. Giardiniera peppers. They're like pickled peppers. Oh my god, it's so good. I know that you're currently in Georgia, and I have had egg on a pizza before, and they have this weird dish that's weird to me. That's like a pizza egg dish. That's really good too. There's actually a Georgian restaurant right near my house. And so I might have that this week too, because you made me think about it.
It's great. Yeah. The Ajarian Hachapuri, it's with a boat-shaped pizza with an egg on it. It's absolutely delicious. Definitely not a healthy food, but it's a really great comfort food when you're hangry. So appreciate your time, Mike. Anything else you want to add? I guess I got one last question. What is something that you wish more people asked you going through your entrepreneurial journey?
I think not a lot of people ask me this. Like, was it hard? Like, is it challenging? Like, and the answer is, it was so hard. It is so hard to do entrepreneurship, and it's easy looking back and saying it looks like this really clean, clear path, but there's a lot of unknowns to it. There's a lot of feelings. There's a lot of ups. There's a lot of downs. And I had forgotten that. So when I started the business the second time, I'd forgotten how hard it was to get something from nothing. And then when the pandemic hit, that was really challenging to work through that, because we have a business that goes into people's homes. So I would say that it's having all the emotions, like joy, frustration, happiness, rage, grief. Like, these are all things that you experience in the entrepreneurial journey, and it's okay. Like, other people are doing it too. And so, there's surrounding yourself with friends, getting a therapist. Like, these are all really valuable things to do as part of the entrepreneurial.
Do you recommend people follow a similar path? You had a nice high paying job, built a side hustle, and then you kind of pivoted over.
Yeah, I think when you do the pivot, it's got to be 100%. It's very hard to work on a business while still sort of with a safety net. And you make bolder choices, and you're a little bit more desperate when you just go all in. So like, it was a side hustle to start, but then when it was time to quit, I quit my old job, and I just did 100% was focused on GrubHub. And that made all the difference in terms of being able to succeed and beat competition.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I noticed, I also had to send that hard letter to quit a 6-figure job. It's tough. You're used to that monthly paycheck. And when you actually enjoy the people you work with, it's even harder. The biggest thing I noticed was I was giving my primary, like the peak 40 to 60 hours a week. I was giving that away for a 6-figure salary. But once that goes away, those 40, 60 hours of your prime work hours, your deep work, is going towards your business. And even if you have a fraction of that, instead of utilizing your leftover 20 to 30 hours a week on your side hustle, you can really have a big impact. Did you notice a shift between that when you're going into the office and then afterwards having to work on GrubHub? Did you kind of notice that big shift where you were able to just have your mind clear, wake up in the morning, how do I make GrubHub more money?
Yeah, I mean, it's 100% true. I actually had never thought about that. That it's not just you have more hours to spend and you're more focused and you have more attention. You're not distracted, but the actual quality of the hours you spend is higher when you don't have like a full time job distracting you. I like the idea of like not just quantity of hours, but quality of hours. Yeah, that's a kind of a new concept to me, but it resonates strongly. So thank you. I appreciate that. I learned something. I got to think about that some more this week. And like, what does that mean in terms of my prioritization? Not just what I spend my time on, but when I spend my time on it. That's intriguing. I'm gonna look at my calendar a little bit more critically this week because of that. So thank you.
Yeah, I always recommend people doing a time audit, and then you can kind of look at your weekly planner, see what you're spending the most time on. You can score like, I hate this task, but I keep doing it anyways. It's like a $30 thing to outsource. That's something that I love, and a mentor recommended me to do is audit all my time, score it on a scale of 1 to 10, and then put a price on how easy it would be to outsource that or hire somebody. And you can kind of realign things a lot. So it's definitely a good perspective to have. I guess one last question before we wrap up here. You talk about flow state, and this kind of goes to that, the quality hours. How do you get into flow state, especially working from home, having a lot of distractions? You mentioned you're raising a family. How do you do that?
Yeah. So during the pandemic for 2.5 years, I didn't. Like, it was just not possible. The distractions were too much. Now, it's a matter of, again, minimizing distractions. There's less of them just coming at me than there was 2 years ago. But, my kid's in school today. So like I have the opportunity to get into flow state. It really is about minimizing distractions and then buckling down and doing the work, like literally just starting to do work. And then just applying yourself. And it's a muscle that you exercise. It gets easier the more you do it.
Yeah, I love that. No, getting in the flow state is very important. So, Mike, I really appreciate your time here. Go check out his book, Hangry. It's definitely worth the read. Make sure you leave him a review afterwards if you love it. If you don't love it, then reach out to him, give him some feedback for the next book. I know as authors, we always love hearing from our readers. So I'll be leaving a review myself, Mike. I love the book so far, and I think you're going to go on to make an even bigger impact on the world. So appreciate everything you do, and wishing you well on the rest of your journey.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.